Hi, my name is Carla. I'm a second-year War Studies student at King's College London, and I am finishing my internship with BizGs, where I've had the opportunity to write an article highlighting the struggles of communities affected by numerous forms of targeted violence. Today, I want to talk to you about my article entitled Religious Minorities in Ruins, The Legacy of Genocide and Shattered Identity Post-ISIS. So in this podcast, I'll share why I chose to write about this, the key points of the article itself, what the research process was like, and some final thoughts. We'll look at how Yazidi and Syrian Christian communities in Syria and Iraq are working to rebuild their identities after the devastation of ISIS. So to start, a little about myself and why this topic resonates with me. In my course at university, so War Studies, I study global perspectives surrounding war, peace, and recovery. So writing this article allowed me to delve deeper into these themes and the specific experiences of groups that have suffered immensely under war, not just physically, but I'm talking also about culturally, spiritually, and socially as well. So why this topic? Well, I've always been inspired by the resilience of people and communities who have gone through unimaginable suffering, and this was something that I wanted to explore in my article. Having myself experienced ISIS attacks and bombings in my home country, namely France, for the past decade, terrorism is hence something that I am very interested in studying. Also, the Middle East, I find, is a very fascinating region. It is made of a complex and cosmopolitan web of colors and peoples, so targeting these differences is something that undermines pluralism in the region and I believe in the world. The return of minority communities to their homes after ISIS is a huge challenge, and it's not just about rebuilding houses or infrastructure, it is about restoring entire identities that were systematically attacked by ISIS. In my article, I focus on two specific ethno-religious minorities, so the Yazidis and the Syrian Christians, during a campaign that aimed to erase them from history and wipe out their essence, identity, and existence. And their plight is a plight that I had never heard of in Western media or at school, and I wanted to shed a light about ISIS's terror and atrocities and revive voices. Now, let's dive into the article itself. The Yazidis and the Syrian Christians. So, to everyone, for definition, they are two very ancient communities in the region. Yazidis are considered to be ethnically and linguistically Kurds. They are now located in northern Iraq for a majority, and they have a very unique religion and system of beliefs. Assyrian Christians come from ancient times, Mesopotamia, and they now live for the most part in Syria. So these two communities, along with non-Sunni Muslims, were specifically targeted during ISIS's reign of terror between 2014 and 2017 in Syria and Iraq, in the broader context of the Syrian civil war. During this period, ISIS aimed to create a homogeneous religious state that was based on their extremist interpretation of Islam. The Yazidis and Christians were seen as obstacles to this vision, and they were considered impure and labeled as devil worshippers. They suffered what the UN has now called a genocide, with mass executions, sexual enslavement of women, rapes, abductions, displacements, and forced conscription of boys as child soldiers. But ISIS's cruelty wasn't just limited to physical violence. They also launched a campaign of cultural cleansing and destruction, wiping out shrines, churches, temples, and homes that were crucial to the identity of these minorities. Now, these communities suffer from trauma, from fragmented ties to each other, and from the loss of a sense of self. In the article, I explore how material heritage is crucial to the construction of collective identity, as it anchors a group in present time and space, but also refers to a common history, a common memory, and a common culture. And I explore how these communities today are working to rebuild all of these aspects of their social fabric and existence. Because now that the military victory over ISIS has been proclaimed in Syria and Iraq, Yazidis and Christians have slowly started returning to their homes in liberated areas, and also restoring sacred sites and reviving religious practices. They are rebuilding homes and temples, reclaiming their faith and rituals with the help of local communities, and they are fighting for justice and punishment. However, piecing back their identity and all of these fragments is a long and really complicated process. The trauma they carry out from this being yet another genocide in their history, which I'll touch upon later, is huge. Their connection to their community is fragmented, and many families remain displaced or separated, making it very difficult to heal. Reintegration into society is undermined by ongoing instability in the country, hostilities with other groups, and the lack of trust with neighbors, as many are seen as complicit or passive in front of ISIS's acts. It is particularly hard, especially for women, as they face stigma around sexual violence, to reintegrate. So concerning the research process, researching for this article was both enlightening and challenging. I had to dig deep into the history of these communities. So not just during ISIS's occupation, but also looking at how they've been persecuted throughout history. Yazidis, for instance, have faced repeated episodes of violence long before ISIS. They were targeted under Saddam Hussein's regime and even during Ottoman times. The same goes for Christians in the region, with the Armenian genocide serving as a notable example post-World War I. What I found most powerful in my research was the resilience of these communities, because despite everything they've endured, they continue to fight for their identity, their culture, and their place in the world, which I find very inspiring. As I've said before, this is a story that I had never heard of and is still largely underreported in the media, as the Syrian civil war is a very complex conflict, and now that ISIS is deemed to be defeated, the international focus is on the political and refugee crisis, whereas Yazidis and other non-Sunni Muslim minorities are less well known to the broader global public, so perhaps resonate less. Another factor is also because of ISIS's control. It was dangerous and inaccessible to journalists or human rights observers, and there was also outright denial and misinformation by the regime itself. so it was very hard to document in real time these atrocities. As a note towards the future, both Yazidis and Syrian Christians face a long road ahead, but their resilience offers hope that they will rebuild stronger than before, even if a full return to normal may never be possible. I now encourage you to read the full article for a deeper understanding of this issue. Thank you so much for listening, and I wanted to thank BizGs for this opportunity.